My son dumped his disabled wife in the forest. He thought no one was there. The call that only comes when your life is about to split in two. Midnight calls don't ask permission, they invade. My phone exploded to life on the nightstand, yanking me out of a dream I couldn't remember but didn't want to lose. The red digits on the clock glowed 12:17 a.m. My Spokane house was silent in that deep, hollow way it only ever got after midnight, like the walls were listening for something to happen. Unknown number? Local. I stared at it a full second longer than I should have. At my age, you learn that nothing good ever arrives unannounced at that hour. Only bad news. Only emergencies. Only words you can't take back. Hello? My voice came out rough, scraped raw by sleep and something older than sleep. Dread. Mr. Carter? The man's tone was controlled, but only barely. Tight. Like someone gripping the edge of a table to keep from losing it. My name is Noah Grayson. I need you to come to my cabin. Now. It's about Lily. My heart missed a step. Lily. My daughter-in-law. The woman my son married. The woman I'd come to love like the daughter my late wife Evelyn and I never had. The woman in a wheelchair since the accident 5 years ago. A drunk driver. A red light. And a single moment that turned permanent into a sentence. What happened to her? I sat up so fast the room tilted. Is she hurt? Where's Ethan? There was a pause. Not the kind where someone is searching for words. The kind where they already know the answer and hate that they do. Please, the man said quietly. Just come. I'm in Cawville National Forest, off Route 25. I'll text the coordinates. The line went dead. I sat there, staring at my phone, pulse pounding in my ears. Noah Grayson name I didn't recognize. A stranger calling me from inside a national forest in the middle of the night, asking me to drive out there because of Lily. That alone should have been impossible. I didn't stop to think. Thinking is what people do when they want to delay reality. Jeans, sweater, boots, keys. My hands shook as I pulled the door shut behind me. As I backed out of the driveway, the streetlights painted neat pools of yellow on the pavement, calm and harmless like the world had decided to pretend nothing was wrong. But I knew better. Because when someone calls you at midnight about the woman your son married, it's never about something small. It's about something that can't be undone. And the road ahead felt like it was leading straight into it. The forest didn't feel quiet. It felt like it was waiting. The coordinates led me off the main road and onto a dirt path that barely deserved the name. Branches scraped the sides of my car like fingernails. The trees leaned in, tall and black, swallowing my headlights almost as fast as they could produce them. The deeper I drove, the worse my chest felt. 40 minutes passed. Or maybe it was an hour. Time stretches strangely when dread is riding in the passenger seat, when every turn feels like a decision you'll regret if you choose wrong. When the cabin finally appeared, warm light spilling from the window's relief hit me so hard I had to grip the steering wheel to keep from shaking. For one foolish second, I thought maybe this was all a misunderstanding. Then I saw the man standing on the porch. He wasn't waving. He wasn't smiling. He was waiting. Noah Grayson was tall. Late 30s, maybe. He had the still posture of someone who'd learned how to move carefully in places where mistakes got people killed. He looked like he belonged out here, like the forest recognized him. He opened the door before I could knock. She's inside, he said, stepping aside. The cabin smelled like wood smoke and strong coffee. And then I saw her. Lily sat near the stove, wrapped in a blanket that swallowed her thin body. Her hair was tangled. Her face was pale, lips faintly blue at the edges like the cold had tried, and nearly succeeded, to claim her. She held a mug in both hands, but she wasn't drinking. Lily? I crossed the room and dropped to my knees beside her wheelchair. Sweetheart, what happened? Where's Ethan? At my son's name, something inside her cracked. The sound that came out of her wasn't just a sob. It was raw, animal, torn from a place so deep it hurt to hear. He left me, she whispered. My chest tightened. Left you where? In the forest, she said, voice shaking. He drove me out there, and he left me, like trash. I turned slowly toward Noah, desperate for him to contradict her. To say she was confused, hypothermic, anything. Noah didn't flinch. I found her in a clearing, he said quietly. She was screaming until she couldn't anymore. The room tilted, because the only thing worse than hearing your daughter-in-law say your son abandoned her is realizing a stranger believed her fast enough to save her life. The truth didn't arrive all at once. It bled out slowly, I wanted to reject it, to argue, to insist there had to be a mistake. Ethan was a surgeon. Ethan was smart. Ethan was my son. But Lily's eyes weren't wild. They weren't confused. They were clear, anchored, devastated. He said he couldn't do it anymore, she continued, each word breaking off like ice cracking underfoot. He said he was tired of carrying my weight, tired of the chair, tired of my meds, tired of my appointments, tired of me. My mouth opened. No sound came out. He rolled me into a clearing, she said, swallowing hard. Then he took my phone. He said there was no signal anyway, so what was the point? My stomach twisted. Then he kissed my forehead, she whispered, like it was mercy, and he said, "You won't be a burden anymore." I felt something ugly crawl up my throat. And then he drove away, she said. I heard the gravel under his tires. I screamed until I couldn't breathe. I tried to push the chair, but the ground was uneven. My hands were freezing. I couldn't feel my fingers. I couldn't. Her voice collapsed. I covered her hands with mine. They were still cold, still shaking. "Did he leave your medication?" I asked. She shook her head. "No. He said I didn't need it where I was going." A sound escaped me, half gasp, half growl. My son, Ethan, the boy I raised, the man who took an oath to heal. I turned to Noah. "Why were you out there?" "Because I followed him." The words hit like a hammer. "You followed my son?" My voice sharpened with disbelief. Noah didn't get defensive, didn't puff up. He just looked at Lily, then back at me. "I didn't follow him," he said calmly. "I followed the feeling that he was about to do something unforgivable." The fire crackled behind us, and in that moment, a truth settled into my bones that made my skin go cold. Ethan didn't just abandon her. He chose a place and a time designed for one outcome. I kept remembering my son as a child, and it felt like remembering a stranger. Lily eventually slept, wrapped in heated blankets. Noah pulled from a back room. Her breathing was shallow but steady. I couldn't sleep at all. I sat by the dying fire, staring at my hands like they belonged to someone else. Outside, the forest whispered wind and branches, the distant call of an owl, the kind of night that looks peaceful from far away and becomes terrifying when you're alone in the wrong place. My mind drifted backward because it didn't know how to sit with the present. Ethan had been kind as a boy, sensitive, the kind who cried when he stepped on ants, the kind who made me pull over to help turtles cross the road. After Evelyn died, he became my whole world. I poured everything into him, every lesson, every hope, every expectation. When he became a surgeon, I was proud in a way that made my chest ache. I told myself Evelyn would have been proud too. When he brought Lily home, I thought life had finally given me something back. She was quiet, thoughtful, a writer the kind who carried books in her purse like other people carried makeup. She quoted poetry at dinner. She listened the way Evelyn used to, like every word mattered. At the wedding, I remember squeezing Ethan's shoulder and thinking, this is it. This is the good life. Then the accident happened. A drunk driver ran a red light. Lily's spine was shattered. The doctors said permanent like it was a simple adjective, not a sentence. Ethan stood beside her hospital bed, crying, promising. He held her hand and swore he'd never leave, and I told everyone my son was a good man. Sitting in that cabin, I realized something that made my chest hurt in a new way. Maybe I wasn't proud. Maybe I was blind. The stranger knew my family better than I did. Just before dawn, Lily woke and asked for water. Noah moved quietly, efficient like this wasn't his first emergency. When she settled again, I finally asked the question burning in my chest. "Noah," I said, "who are you really, and why were you close enough to find her?" He sat across from me, hands wrapped around a mug he hadn't touched. "I knew Lily before Ethan did," he said. My eyebrows lifted. "How?" "We dated," he said. 10 years ago." The words landed softly, but carried weight. "We met hiking," he continued. "She was photographing trails for an article. I was on leave." He paused, as if choosing which pieces of himself to reveal. "We were together 2 years. Then I got deployed again. She wanted stability. I couldn't offer it. You're military," I said, finally understanding the posture, the calm. He nodded. 3 tours. "And you came back here?" I said slowly. "To the forest. I came back to be quiet," he said. "But last year I looked her up. I saw she was married. I was glad she was happy. He swallowed. Then I saw the accident. And after that, she disappeared. No posts, no writing, no voice, he said. Only Ethan speaking for her. I remembered Ethan's social media, the photos of Lily smiling in her chair, captions about our journey, comments praising Ethan for being a saint. Noah's eyes held mine. Something felt wrong, so I stayed close enough to notice. The cruel irony settled over me like frost. A stranger had protected Lily more faithfully than the man who vowed to love her. By morning, my son was already rewriting the truth. When I got home, my phone was vibrating nonstop. Messages, missed calls, voicemails stacking like bricks. Ray, turn on the TV. My stomach sank before I touched the remote. There was Ethan, standing outside Sacred Heart Hospital in scrubs and a jacket, eyes red, voice trembling like he'd practiced it. My wife Lily is missing, he said. She's been struggling since the accident. He talked about depression, about darkness, about how she needed space. He looked straight into the camera and said he was terrified she might hurt herself. I turned the TV off with shaking hands. He wasn't searching for her. He was preparing for her death. And in that moment, I understood something that changed everything. The forest wasn't the end of Ethan's plan. It was only the beginning. If you're listening right now, pause for 1 second and tell me, where are you watching from and what time is it there? I read the comments, and your answers always surprise me. Every lie leaves paperwork, and my son left a trail like he thought no one would look. I stood in my living room with the television dark, Ethan's performance still echoing in my head, depressed, struggling, terrified she might hurt herself. He was building a story brick by brick, a story where Lily wasn't a victim, she was a problem. A story where her death, if it happened, would make sense. My hands shook as I scrolled through my contacts until I found a name I hadn't called in years. Hank Lawson, retired detective. Old friend, the kind of man who could smell a lie the way dogs smell fear. He answered on the second ring. Ray? Hank, I said, voice tight. Lily isn't missing. Silence. Then, quietly, where is she? She's alive, I said. But my son tried to kill her. Another pause. He didn't interrupt, didn't rush me. Just listened while I told him everything. The call, the forest, Noah's cabin, the missing phone, the missing medication. When I finished, Hank exhaled slowly. Then, we don't have time for grief, he said. We have time for evidence. That afternoon, he came over with a laptop, a legal pad, and the kind of focus that made my house feel smaller. We worked like men trying to stop a fire before it reached the walls. Lily, safe at Noah's cabin, gave what she could account names, old passwords, the freelance income she used to manage herself. After the accident, he changed everything, she told me on the phone. He said it was to make things easier, safer. I stared at the wall, jaw tight. And you believed him? I wanted to, she whispered. Hank typed rapidly, eyes narrowing. Okay. Found it. Rows of transactions. Small transfers. Always under $5,000. Spread over months like dripping water, slow enough to avoid alarms, fast enough to drain a life. How much? I asked. Hank highlighted the total. Joanne Lantin Sibe Mewen. My throat went dry. Where did it go? Offshore account, Hank said. Shell company. The kind people use when they don't want their name attached. I shook my head, denial trying to save me from reality. Ethan wouldn't. Hank lifted an eyebrow. Ray. IP addresses. Login times. It's him. The truth landed heavy. My son hadn't just abandoned his wife. He'd been emptying her life out quietly for months. The affair explained what love no longer could. Hank opened another tab, hospital schedules, public records, overlapping shifts. There's a coordinator at Sacred Heart, he said. Paige Mercer. Same rotations as Ethan. Same late-night check-ins. Same lunches. The word affair didn't need to be said. It sat there between us like a bad smell. Everything snapped into place. The money. The isolation. The patience required to plan something as final as a forest at night. So he wanted Lily gone, I said slowly. So he could keep the money and live clean with Paige. Hank's voice hardened. He wanted a narrative where he's the hero, and Lily is the tragic problem that solved itself. That was when it hit me hardest. This wasn't an impulsive act of cruelty. It was a plan. And my son was smart enough to pull it off, unless someone stopped him. When the police listened, it was because evidence spoke louder than blood. Walking into the police station felt like stepping into a confession booth where the priest might arrest you. Hank had called ahead to a detective he trusted, Marisol Vega. Domestic crimes, financial abuse, the cases everyone else called messy. She met me with sharp eyes and a calm face that didn't flinch when I said the words out loud. My son tried to murder my daughter-in-law. She didn't gasp, didn't judge. She opened a file. Start from the beginning. So I did. The midnight call, the cabin, the clearing, the stolen phone, the missing medication, the drained accounts. Paige Mercer. I slid Hank's reports across her desk. Detective Vega read fast. Her jaw tightened just enough to tell me she believed me. This is substantial, she said. I'll need to corroborate it. I'll speak to Lily and Mr. Grayson. I'll pull warrants for Ethan's phone, email, bank access. How long? I asked. 24 hours, she said. If the judge signs quickly, he's on TV shaping the story, I said. That's why we move fast, she replied. The next day felt endless. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart jumped. Then it rang. We got into his email, Vega said. I gripped the counter. And? We found messages between Ethan and Paige, she said, controlled but sharp. 2 weeks ago, she wrote, we can't keep living like this. Ethan replied, I have a permanent solution. My skin went cold. 10 days ago, Vega continued. He wrote, the forest option is clean. No cameras, no witnesses. We just need the timing. It wasn't just what he'd done. It was that he'd written it down like a grocery list. We can arrest him, Vega said, but a confession would lock it down tight. A confession? My voice cracked. We want you to confront him, she said. We'll wire you. I closed my eyes. You want me, I whispered, to trap my own son. I want you to save Lily, she said. And I understood something painful and simple. I couldn't be Ethan's father first anymore. I rehearsed betrayal like a prayer I didn't believe in. The day of the trap, my house felt haunted not by ghosts, but by memories. I walked through the living room and saw Ethan at 6, building pillow forts. At 13, sulking after his first heartbreak. At 25, wearing his white coat, while Evelyn cried with pride. Now this room would be where his life cracked open. Detective Vega's team fitted the wire under my shirt. A tiny microphone, a cord taped against my ribs. You'll be uncomfortable, she said. That's good. Noah stayed in the guest room not to fight, but because Lily needed safety, and Ethan was capable of anything when cornered. Lily remained at the cabin. She said hearing Ethan's voice made her body remember the cold. I called Ethan at noon. Come over tonight. We need to talk. He sounded exhausted, perfect for the role he was playing. Dad, I'm coordinating with police. Just come, I said. A pause. Okay. 7. In the hours before he arrived, I practiced my lines. How to sound like a worried father, not an investigator. How to keep him talking. How not to explode when he lied to my face. At 6:58, headlights swept across my window. At 7, the doorbell rang. I took a breath so deep it hurt and opened the door. The scariest monsters are the ones who still call you Dad. Ethan stepped inside like he belonged there because he did. Any news? He asked, voice soft. Sit down, I said. He sat on the couch where Evelyn used to read, where he used to fall asleep during movies. I've done everything I can, he said quickly. The reward. Tell me what really happened, I said. His eyes narrowed. What do you mean? The money, I said. Why did you move $92,000? A flicker crossed his face. Investments, for Lily's care. And Paige Mercer? His shoulders stiffened. Who told you about Paige? There it was. The crack. I know about the emails, I said. The permanent solution. The forest option. His face drained of color, then flushed red with anger. You don't understand. Every day, it's the chair. The meds. I'm suffocating. You left her to die, I said. I didn't want her to suffer, he snapped. Silence filled the room. Even Ethan realized what he'd said. Dad. His eyes widened. Are you recording me? The front door opened. Detective Vega stepped in with 2 officers. Dr. Ethan Carter, you're under arrest? You set me up, he shouted. You're my father. And Lily is my family, I said. As they led him away, he screamed, She ruined everything. The door shut, and my house exhaled. If you're still with me, drop a comment. Would you have done what I did? Would you turn in your own child to save someone else? I'm genuinely curious. The trial didn't begin with a gavel. It began with Ethan's lies fighting to survive. Once Ethan was arrested, the world didn't quiet down. It got louder. Reporters camped outside my house. His lawyer went on television calling me a bitter old man manipulated by Lily's emotional narrative. Ethan played the victim flawlessly. Caregiver fatigue, mistakes, no intent. Detective Vega kept me steady. They always minimize, she said, because admitting intent is admitting the monster. Lily started therapy. One day she told me, the hardest part wasn't the forest. It was realizing he'd been letting me disappear long before. 6 months later, the court date arrived. Ethan sat in a suit, calm, handsome. If you didn't know what he'd done, you might have felt sorry for him. That terrified me most, because evil doesn't always look like a monster. Sometimes it looks like a man who knows how to make you doubt the victim. Lily took the stand, and the room learned what courage really looks like. When Lily rolled into the courtroom, the air changed. People didn't just look at her, they recalibrated around her. Some faces softened, some hardened, a few tilted with skepticism, like disability made truth negotiable. Noah pushed her wheelchair to the stand, then stepped back. He didn't hover. He didn't claim space that wasn't his. Lily straightened her shoulders and swore the oath with a voice that didn't shake. The prosecutor started gently marriage, accident, dependence, daily routines. Lily answered clearly, precisely, like someone reclaiming a language that had been taken from her. Then came the forest. He drove me into Cawville National Forest, she said. He rolled me into a clearing. He took my phone. He took my medication. He said I wouldn't be a burden anymore. Then he left. Ethan's lawyer stood, smooth and practiced. Mrs. Carter, hypothermia can cause confusion. Trauma can distort memory. Lily met his eyes. I remember everything. Your husband was under extraordinary stress, the lawyer said. Caregiver fatigue. I didn't misunderstand the sound of his car leaving, Lily said. I didn't misunderstand the cold. I didn't misunderstand the planning. The courtroom went still. Then the lawyer shifted tactics, softening his voice. And your relationship with Mr. Grayson? You have history. Yes, Lily said. 10 years ago. But he wasn't there because of romance. He was there because my husband tried to murder me. A murmur rippled through the room. Ethan hadn't just tried to kill her body. He'd tried to kill the part of her that could testify. He failed. Noah's testimony didn't perform at cut. Noah took the stand without ceremony. Simple shirt, no medals, no story about himself. The prosecutor asked how he knew Lily. We dated years ago, he said. We went separate ways. I respected her life. Why were you nearby? She disappeared, Noah said. Her writing stopped. Her voice stopped. Ethan spoke for her. Ethan's lawyer pounced. So you stalked them? Noah didn't flinch. I watched from a distance. Concern isn't obsession. He described the night he followed Ethan's car, the clearing, Lily's blue hands, her voice nearly gone. If I hadn't found her, he said evenly, she would have died before sunrise. Convenient, the lawyer sneered. No, Noah replied. Instinct. Experience with what? Noah paused. With what people do when they stop seeing someone as human. The body cam footage played next, Lily shaking, wrapped in blankets, whispering, He left me to die. Ethan's face stayed calm, but his hands moved restless, betraying him. The lawyer tried one last angle. You're in love with her. Noah didn't smile. If I wanted Ethan gone, I wouldn't be here. I'd be somewhere pretending I didn't see anything. I'm here because Lily deserves to live. That's when the room shifted. Belief settled in. When it was my turn, the stand felt like broken glass. I'd taught psychology for years. Conscience, empathy, moral injury. None of it prepared me for speaking about my son like he was a stranger who broke into my family. Do you believe Ethan intended to kill Lily? The prosecutor asked. I looked at my hands, then at Ethan. His face was blank. Yes, I said quietly. He intended to kill her. Ethan's lawyer rose. Turning in your son makes you look heroic. Isn't it possible you wanted attention? If I wanted attention, I said, I would have sold my grief. I would have written a book. So you're willing to send your only child to prison? I'm willing to make sure Lily survives. He smiled thinly. You loved her more than your son. I loved the boy my son was, I said. Love doesn't excuse evil. Then the recording played Ethan's voice in my living room. I didn't want her to suffer. I'm suffocating. Emails followed on the screen. Forest option is clean. Objection. Overruled. And I understood the true cost of parenthood. Sometimes protecting your child means protecting the world from what your child has become. The verdict came fast, but relief felt like grief in disguise. 4 hours. That's how long the jury deliberated. Guilty. 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 Ethan didn't crack until the judge ordered him remanded. Then he looked at me not with sadness, with hate. Outside, reporters asked if justice had been served. Justice was served, but my wife was still gone. Lily was still in a wheelchair, and my son would spend decades behind bars. That night, alone in the dark, I said it out loud for the first time. I lost my son. Then, just as quietly, but I saved my daughter. Healing isn't a moment, it's 1,000 small choices. Life didn't snap back. It limped. I started therapy. Lily rebuilt appointments, strength training, learning what her body could still do. Noah stayed steady. No speeches, just presence. One afternoon, Lily said, I thought losing my legs meant losing my worth. The forest taught me something. I didn't end. That's when she came to me with an idea. Ray, she said, this is happening to other people. She wanted a foundation resources for abuse survivors, disability advocacy, emergency housing, financial counseling. We named it Evelyn's Light. At the launch, Lily spoke simply, if you feel invisible, hear me. You're not alone. People stood. People cried. Hope returned, not the naive kind, the earned kind. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, it means living anyway. A year later, I stood near the forest turnoff. Daylight made it look harmless. Ethan's sentence was long. People asked if I would visit. Maybe someday, I said. Not yet. Forgiveness is complicated when the person chose to destroy someone you love. Lily laughed again. Noah made her tea like devotion. Evelyn's Light helped its first family escape an abusive home. I wrote in my journal, I didn't fail because my son became cruel. I would have failed if I stayed silent. The strangest truth. Pretending he was innocent almost killed me. The worst part wasn't turning Ethan in. It was the months before when Lily faded and I told myself it was normal. When I hit like on smiling photos. Denial is a slow poison. Now, when I speak at events, I tell the ugly truth. Abuse doesn't always look like bruises. Sometimes it looks like control. Isolation, finances being handled. Lily told me once, with Noah, I don't feel like a burden. I feel like a person. That sentence healed something in me. If blood turns into betrayal, what would you choose? A few weeks ago, Lily and Noah came for dinner. Nothing fancy. Food that made the house feel safe. Afterward, I watched them head down the sidewalk, her hand on his wrist. She waved back at me. For the first time in a long while, I didn't feel defined by what I lost. I felt defined by what I protected. Ethan is my son by blood. That won't change. But Lily is my family by choice. And choice is where love becomes real. If this story tightened something in your chest, if it reminded you of someone being controlled or erased, don't wait for a forest to prove you right. Speak up. Ask questions. Believe the quiet changes. Because sometimes the most dangerous thing isn't the monster. It's the silence that lets the monster plan. And if you've made it to the end, I want to ask you something I wish someone had asked me years earlier. If you had to choose between loyalty and justice, what would you choose? Drop your thoughts in the comments and tell me where you're watching from and what time it is there. I read them, and I promise you're not just typing into the void. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want more real, emotional stories about courage, betrayal, and the hard choices that define us, subscribe. Because sometimes the story that saves someone else starts with someone finally telling the truth. A month after that dinner, I received a letter from prison. The handwriting was unmistakable. Ethan's. I didn't open it right away. I let it sit on my kitchen table for 3 days, moving it aside every morning like it was something sharp I didn't want to touch. When I finally read it, there were no apologies, only explanations. He wrote about pressure, about exhaustion, about how his life stopped being his the moment Lily's wheelchair entered the house. He wrote that he never meant to be cruel, only free. That word stayed with me. Free. I folded the letter carefully and placed it back in the envelope. Then I did something I never expected. I didn't respond, not because I hated him, but because for the first time in my life, I understood something clearly. Explaining harm is not the same as owning it. Some people want forgiveness without accountability. Some want understanding without consequence. And some confuse freedom with the absence of responsibility. That was the line Ethan crossed. Weeks later, Lily told me she was writing again. Short pieces at first, essays about survival, about silence, about how abuse often wears a polite face and speaks in a calm voice. One night she read me a paragraph she wasn't sure she'd ever publish. It ended with a sentence that felt like it had been written for me. The people who saved me weren't perfect. They were just brave enough to stop lying to themselves. And I realized then that this story was never really about betrayal. It was about truth, the kind that costs you something, the kind that changes your life, the kind that, once spoken, refuses to let the darkness pretend it belongs. And if you're still listening, still here with me, maybe that means you already know what truth you've been avoiding. Don't wait. Silence doesn't keep the peace. It only keeps the monster comfortable. The end.